Something I enjoy very much about video games is if they have atmospheric moments. Atmosphere is a term that's thrown around a lot. I do that all the time, to be honest. This game is very atmospheric is a sentence I'll probably manage to throw in every 2 or 3 videos. The term can be a bit vague, but that's kind of the point. Different atmospheres and moods can be portrayed in so many ways. It can be visual, like color, lighting, and framing, audio-based, like music and sounds, and sometimes it's done through storytelling. More often than not, it's a combination of those things that create a mood or atmosphere. I love that feeling of atmosphere in video games, and it's something I often have trouble explaining. Whether it's mysterious, a feeling of awe or grandeur, it's like there's something in the air, and that's often something that can really pull me into a game's world. I think atmosphere is achieved by steering the imagination. Our minds are always looking for the meaning of the information we're presented with. So seeing, hearing, or perhaps reading something that vaguely connects one thought with another can be a very powerful thing. Every thought can branch out in almost infinite directions after all. In today's video, I want to talk about games and gaming moments that have given me this sense of atmosphere. Sometimes the games themselves are atmospheric, and other times it's certain moments rather than the entire game itself. And a nice thing is that some of the games in this video are ones I haven't really talked about on the channel yet. There's more games to talk about than there is time for in this video, so I don't think this will be the last time we tackle this subject. The first atmospheric gaming moment for me is with Fallout 3. If you played the game, you probably already know what it's going to be. It's a rather iconic moment. It's when you first make it out of Vault 101. I was pretty excited on the run-up to Fallout 3. It looked really interesting and I totally got behind the idea of the world. I never heard of the Fallout series before, much to my surprise. The original 2 games with their isometric view seems like something I would have been really into at the time of their release. Nonetheless, I haven't. The entire beginning of Fallout 3 is great. I like how it builds up to the moment when you escape the vault. And I also like how everything you do up until that point takes place in the vault. You see various stages of your character's life as a baby, child, and later as an adult. It really brings you into the mindset of the character. All he or she knows is the vault. That really enhances the effect when the vault door opens. The loud screech of the metal, then the sunlight coming in. It's something the character is seeing for the first time. And then the reveal of the wasteland where the image comes into focus and the sound of the wind. There's such a mixture of different thoughts and feelings. There's a sense of freedom and liberation, as well as possibility. Everything is bright compared to the dim lighting of the vault. But in contrast, the world looks bleak, colorless, and devastated. There are many games that do this world reveal type of opening. There's some more that are like this in this video actually, like for example Oblivion, which we'll talk about later. One of the best games I ever played is Mafia, the original game on the PC. To me, the whole game feels atmospheric. The intro cutscene, with that music playing in the background and the camera flying through the streets, the story and how it's told, the way the passing of time is shown with different cars on the streets, the music when you're driving around. There's just so much in this game that's worth mentioning. But there are 2 major highlights when it comes to atmospheric moments for me: the opening sequence and the race mission. I have this feeling that people might not agree on the race mission, but we'll get to that. I just love the music in the opening. Combined with the imagery, it just evokes so much. It's like the entire song goes through a journey and matches what's going on visually. The melody is somewhat mournful, and the music builds and becomes more exciting, until it reaches a peak where it slows and calms down until it's really quiet. It's great. Makes you really excited to get into the game and play. The race mission is also well made. Some of you might know that I love motorsports. The track in some places looks a bit like the old Spa circuit, but I guess a bunch of old circuits probably looked like that. It's got this grassroots motorsport feeling to everything that so many motorsports fans have a romantic view of. Like with the tutorial mission in the game Driver, a lot of people complain about the race mission in Mafia, but I didn't find it that hard. Just a few tries and all was good. There's other moments in the game worth mentioning too, but I think that'll do for now. I think Mafia is one of those games that deserves an entire video for itself, so maybe we'll get to that one day. The next one I already referenced earlier in the video, it's Oblivion. That part of the tutorial where you come out of the sewer is really similar to when you first get out of the vault in Fallout 3 in many ways. But for me, the whole experience or memory extends a bit farther than just that particular section of the game. Oblivion was the first RPG I ever played, certainly the first sandbox RPG. Playing the game and exiting the sewers for the first time was kind of an amazing feeling to me. At the time, Oblivion was considered very realistic looking, and I was really blown away by how nice all the environments looked. The foliage, trees, water, and the sky. I never played a game before where everything looked this detailed. Neither had my graphic card, by the way. My ATI Radeon 9600 Pro was struggling, so I overclocked it, and it eventually broke, but that's another story. I didn't even know what to do at first. I was so terribly ignorant about the game at the time. I just jumped into the Elder Scrolls series and RPG genre blindly and was a bit overwhelmed. It was like I could do anything and walk anywhere I wanted. In my mind, I imagined the game being bigger than it actually turned out to be. Oblivion ended up being much more limited than I thought. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I was actually obsessed with it for years. I even drove home during lunch just to play it for like half an hour before going back to school. Also, I still remember the first thing I did in the game after the tutorial. I went into one of the inns in the Imperial City, which in my head still seemed like a huge place, even though it kind of isn't. And then I stole an apple. I was on the second floor, sneaking and hidden, and nobody was around. But a guard came running anyway, and that's the first time I witnessed the legendary "Stop right there, criminal scum" scene. Here's a series I always like to talk about, The Legend of Zelda. This time it's the newest game, Botwu, for the Switch and Wii U. The beginning sequence is a little bit like Oblivion and Fallout 3, where you walk towards the light. But here it's different, because, you don't really spend that much time in the cave, first of all. And the tutorial is actually outside of the entrance. Or in this case, I guess it's an exit. There's a lot going on in terms of what you see once you're out in the open. Beautiful and vast landscapes, colorful and vivid foliage, ruins in the background, and crucially, there are elements of other games to be seen straight off the bat, like the Dueling Peaks and the Temple of Time. The game having so many references towards other games in the franchise gives Breath of the Wild a nostalgic mood. As someone who saw the Temple of Time and Ocarina of Time as a child, when the game first came out, seeing it in ruins here is actually kinda sad. The other ruins you find throughout the world give you a bit of a similar feeling. Trying to match all the references to past games for me is a really enjoyable aspect of the game. Some people do think that Breath of the Wild doesn't have enough music, which I mostly agree with, but there are occasions where I like listening to the wind and other environmental sounds. It's really immersive. I think the key is having good headphones or speakers. Something with great soundstage really helps you get drawn into the game's world. Regular TV speakers and the ones integrated into the Switch, or the Wii U tablet for that matter, just don't cut it at all. There you go, a little bit of audiophile snobbery. Need to get that in every once in a while. Morrowind is what I want to talk about next. I know there's a lot of Bethesda going on in this video, but that's alright. For me, one of the best parts about the game is the exploration. Do you see that fog in the background? That's what old games used to use to hide the fact that nothing's rendered beyond that point. It was a pretty common technique at the time, which is why it was so impressive to see the large draw distances of later games like Oblivion and Skyrim. But if you just ignore the fact that this is a disguise and think of it as actual fog, then walking through the Vardenfell Island can be a pretty atmospheric experience. I have a great memory of discovering Vivec for the first time. I'm pretty sure at that point I already went to Balmora, so I thought I had an idea of how big the cities were going to be. But then I saw the entrance to Vivec peering through the fog, and it just got bigger and bigger. Conveniently, the music picked up at that point, which helped out a lot. To me, it was like finding something amazing hidden in the fog. I thought it was just so cool. The thought of walking along and not knowing what's going to pop up in front of you is kind of exciting in a way. It makes you feel like there's something interesting just around the corner, even when there isn't in reality. Once you know the map more intimately, the effect does wear off, unfortunately. Let's talk about something slightly different now. This game comes up on occasion. It's Muramasa, the Demon Blade for the Wii. There's also a Vita remake, which I have too, but you're looking at the Wii version currently. The art style very much is a standout point. I really like all the environments. There are 3D games that look less deep than this. The multi-layered backgrounds really give you that feeling as if you're moving through the world. The animations are so nicely done as well, like the wheat and the wind. I think that specific scene might be my favorite. It's almost as if I can see the scene from my own view. Maybe it taps into some sort of vague memory that's buried in my head somewhere. I can just look at this game all day. It's like a moving painting to me. The music helps too, of course. There's a nice calm flow of sound, except when you're fighting, of course, then things are appropriately hectic. What I like is that all the different environments all have their own moods. For example, there's this feeling of solitude and tranquility in the forest, but the city is filled with hustle and bustle and is full of life. I love that there's this contrast. And the environments change accordingly, giving you this feeling that you're covering a lot of ground when you're going from one place to another. Lastly, we have Journey. This is an indie game that originally came out on the PS3 and later on the PS4. I think there's going to be a PC release as well. I don't own this game. I played it on a friend's PS4, so I'm not sure if I'll be just showing screenshots here or maybe a trailer or something. Journey is a very unique game and I haven't played anything like it since. It's very non-standard in gameplay. No words or tutorials, just play around and explore. The graphics look very artistic, but in a minimalistic way, unlike other artistic games like Muramasa, which is very detailed. What I love is the multiplayer aspect. It's so unique. You can't communicate with other players, you don't even see their usernames. It's quite nice to see another player, actually, because everything's abandoned. You're just happy to see someone else. And then you suddenly have this bond as if you're like, oh my god, you're alive too. It's kind of hard to describe. You can either cooperate and go through the game together, or branch off and go separate ways. Journey is a fairly short game, but I think that's okay. You don't have to invest a lot of time, yet it rewards you with the feeling of having endured a great journey. I guess that's why it's called that. There's this sort of surreal element to everything also, which I think helps in terms of encouraging exploration. Since nothing is explained to you, you're left guessing at the meaning of the things you've encountered. Is this journey you've witnessed something literal or more metaphorical, like the journey of life? Or maybe the game represents a goal you're trying to reach, and as you play, you see the evidence of other people chasing the same goal and not reaching it. And I'm sure there's all kinds of different ways to interpret it because it is so vague. In some ways, Breath of the Wild reminds me of Journey, the way it wordlessly conveys things to the player. That's actually one of the reasons I play Breath of the Wild with the Pro HUD. It gets stuff off the screen, and you're forced to observe your surroundings instead of looking at your minimap or the temperature scale or whatever. So that was 7 atmospheric games and moments that stood out to me. There's many more I could talk about, but we'll leave that be for now. I'd be interested to hear what your favorite atmospheric gaming moments were, whether it's 1 or 2 moments in a game, or an entire game. I hope the video was interesting. At the very least, I enjoyed talking about the subject. Remember, you can help out the channel by simply liking the video if you did. For anyone who wants to go above and beyond, check out the Patreon page in the description, or hit the join button below to become a channel member. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.